And welcome back to Mixed Media. My camera is apparently frozen. That's wonderful. Actually, Ben, if you want to intro the show while I try to fix this, that'd be good.
Sure. All right. Well, welcome to Mixed Media, a weekly podcast that is both audio and live stream. You can watch us. A weekly podcast dedicated to all things art. We tend to focus mostly on our respective fields, but we talk about everything art related. Talk about art and economics, which I think Irving is going to talk about later tonight. In general, intersection of all the arts. If you have any interest in something in the arts, we probably have a show that where we've talked about it. So let's introduce ourselves. Should I go first? I guess I'm already talking, so I may as well go first. My name is Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer.
My name is Frozen. No, my name is Irving. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella, and I have no idea what's happening right now. So
that's not good. But no. It is in the long, tradition of mixed media to have some technical issues. So.
Right.
Yes. So Irving is not absent. Nathan normally. Oh, there you go. Looks like it's working now.
For now.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And we normally have a third co-host, Nathan, who is actually absent tonight. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, how was your week, Irving?
Oh, what even happened this week? Busy. Nothing. I don't think anything terribly interesting. Oh, I launched my website. I already had a website, but it actually went live officially today. I hope for most people. It takes a while for these things to propagate. So I'm not sure if everyone can see it now. But if you go to my website, ariella.co, I'm not sure if I have irvingnestor.com still redirecting to it. I'm not entirely sure. But if you go there, you'll see a brand new spanking website. It's pretty awesome, if you ask me. It took forever to put together. So, and if you have any feedback, I would definitely appreciate it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I need to check it out. So I've been looking into. I'm doing a lot of things this week related to more business side of what I do, and including
Nice.
Doing a lot of research on websites and what I have a good idea of what I want and what I don't want in my website. Now actually creating that's another question, but like I said, I've looked at enough examples that I know what I want and what I don't want.
Sweet. Yeah, if you need any help, definitely hit me up after. Actually, just hit me up in general if you
Yeah,
if you need anything. Yeah.
definitely, definitely. On of course on that line too. I know I mentioned it on our Discord, but I don't know if you noticed. I use my the pronunciation of my last name as Costello. Um,
Yes.
yeah, which is for anyone who doesn't know, which is probably almost every single person out there. Um, my name in my last name in Irish, Irish pronunciation. If you go to Ireland, everyone's going to say Costello. Um, and a long story why that name tends to not work in the United States, but in the United States, people just don't want to pronounce that. So my family, many decades ago, gave up attempting to do that. But I have for a long time, I thought about like wanting to make that my professional name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've had some people over the years who have really pushed me to do that. But it's just hard because I grew up with saying my name is Costello, and also like if you say Costello when like you're talking to somebody online or something, or not online, like on like a like a phone call to a bank or something, and like they're not people are gonna know. Most people will have a sense of how to spell Costello, but they don't have a sense of what Costello is. They just spell it for them. But I decided that that's I'm making that change. I want that to be how I want to present myself professionally. So there we go.
Cool. Cool. I'll have to make a habit of saying it that way too.
I mean, honestly, some like our friend Kelsey, she is much better about calling me Costello than I am calling myself that. So
Yeah. Cool. Cool. Sounds like good things. Good things. How about any news on your end?
yeah, well, I also mentioned this on our Discord, and I'm gonna save like some of the commentary for my arguing with Reddit segment. But the CEO of Spotify, Daniel Ek, made some really funny comments. So I guess he's made some comments after reporting that Spotify had its
Really dumb comments, like
yeah I
extremely dumb.
yeah. So I guess they made a profit of €1 billion in the first quarter of 2024. So he's announcing this, and this is like um their I guess their the record profits for a quarter. Okay, and he says that the cost of creating musical content is close to zero. Um, so yeah, I know that I don't think any musician took that very kindly. Um, and I guess we're gonna talk about that on more on arguing with Reddit. But it is kind of a notable. I mean, we've mentioned him many times on this show before. But
Oh yeah, I think he's on the thumbnail of maybe a few of our episodes at
oh
this point.
yeah, yes he is. Yeah, um, yeah. So he thinks that the cost of creating music is essentially zero. Well, I guess it's easy for him to say that sitting up in his nice office, I'm sure, and getting a huge portion of whatever revenue that Spotify does have, which is probably not that much anyway, but probably
No,
all goes to him.
but
So
let's do a thought experiment. Like, just think about it for a moment, audience, if you will. If you just humor me for a moment, this actually relates highly to the segment I'll do later. Um, but what would you value all of music as? Like all of music, what would be like the number that you'd put on all of music? Like if you say anything less than like $500 billion, maybe. Like I don't know. Maybe that's a terribly off number. I don't know, but like
I don't know how you'd evaluate it, but
okay, maybe $500 billion. Maybe that's a little crazy, but definitely 100 billion doesn't seem terribly crazy at all. That seems definitely reasonable. And for Spotify, who hosts all of music pretty much, to only make $1 billion is actually not good. That's not good at all. you know, um, it's like we have the narrative like kind of like flipped on its head. It's like he's saying this so that he can try to increase the margin further because he's desperate, not for his paycheck. His paycheck is going to be whatever exorbitant paycheck, because all that he needs for the paycheck is that there's cash coming in, which can be done through debt, right? So he could just be paid out of whatever loans they have, or just paid out of whatever minimal cash flow. I mean, $1 billion is a lot of money, like for a person, right? So, he doesn't care. Like he's making oodles and oodles of money. The shareholders don't care because the asset price doesn't match like reality. And the artists who don't make a single slice out of the entire pie, they're told to make less of the slice, so that Spotify can continue to abuse them into the future. It's kind of a crazy, crazy scheme. Yeah. Ugh, it's wild.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about that later. Stick around for arguing with Reddit. It'll be fun.
Yes. Yeah, on the film side of things, I'm trying to remember if anything has happened. I don't know that I've noticed anything of interest. Other than I think I did know something. Actually, I was actually at Walmart today. This is not actually a news story, but it's just something I noticed. I was at Walmart today, and I was looking at the Blu-ray section, which is completely inferior to the Blu-ray section at Best Buy, of course. Mostly because Best Buy just has the best deals always. But I was looking at some stuff. I was looking at Dune Part 2 is already on Blu-ray, which kind of I guess it is around that time. For it to be on Blu-ray, but time is so wild to me right now. And I was looking at the price of getting Dune Part 1 and Part 2, and it's like $30. And I'm like, that's not a lot, except it is a lot. And I had this moment, I was standing there and I was like, inflation is so weird. Like, it's weird, like how this works, right? Like, it's like, that probably didn't inflate. That's probably why it feels not a lot, but also like, wait, that number is not normal, or not. It's not crazy. Like it would be normal in like the before times, So like, I don't know. It's just a weird experience. So maybe it's time to buy Blu-rays, and maybe that kind of relates to my next topic as well.
What was like the average price of non-Dune to movie content?
Yeah, there are a lot of bundles at Walmart. They really like the bundles.
Okay.
So you can get like 3 movie things and 2 movie things.
Oh, I have a Walmart down the street for me that I have been in exactly once. So I don't know. Maybe I should go check out the movie selection.
Yes. They tend to have the latest stuff like down better than Best Buy does. They have like all the like anything that came out in the last 2 or 3 years is pretty much there.
Okay.
And
unfortunately, there's not a lot from that period that I'm dying to see.
That's my feeling every time I walk into the section. I'm like, there's not really anything here I want, so that I end up leaving and wishing there was a Best Buy near me. But which still every Best Buy I've been to still carries Blu-rays. I don't know what that whole fiasco was. I mean, I've been to 2 Best Buy since that whole fiasco, so maybe there are some that have gotten rid of their Blu-rays. But I'm glad to see Blu-rays whenever I enter one, because the amount of times you find a classic film for like $5, $7, it's insane. And so, yeah.
Barnes and Noble also tends to have like a small but like decent selection.
Yeah.
My experience. Not that I've been in one that recently either, but
I haven't been in a while. But last time I was there, or actually last time I was on the site, maybe that was probably a year ago. They were carrying Criterion still, and
yeah, they definitely had a bunch of Criterion stuff. When I went shopping there right before Christmas.
Yeah. So Best Buy is good if you want to pick up Criterion stuff. Sometimes they have sales for Criterion stuff. There's like a once a year Criterion sale at Barnes and Noble's. That's pretty good. So yeah, anyway, physical media. We love physical media here at Mixed Media.
You do, yes.
Own your art, own it. Don't let egghead dude, tell you what you can and can't access. You can hear his idiocy. I don't think you should rely on that guy for access to your music. Um, um, yeah, but anyway, yeah, I just noticed the pricing. Oh yeah, you asked me. The average 2-disc was probably something like $20, something like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
not bad.
no, it's not bad at all.
Also, reminds me, I need to go back to the local used bookstore. But it's not too far from you. It has like a ridiculous collection of everything.
Yeah, I have one near me too. I should definitely take a picture and put it on the Discord. It's an insane place.
Because I bought I bought like a membership there too, so it makes it even more worth my time. And like, it's, like secondhand, right? You use stuff, but it's like $2 for like a non Blu-ray, and maybe $5 for a Blu-ray.
Right.
So,
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah,
the last time I was there, I bought like most of the classic Disney films for like $2 each.
Dang.
And like that's pretty good. And some of them I got on Blu-ray, like the Pixar ones. But like that's a pretty good deal, if Disney Plus ever stops existing or getting my money. I mean, I can now watch The Little Mermaid and all those films. So,
or as we've seen recently, if they want to severely edit, not severely edits, but we've seen edits recently, on streaming versions. If you want a permanent copy that cannot be, edited, that art as fixed in time, then that's the only way to do it. Otherwise, you don't control it.
Speaking of which, have you ever seen Bluey, Irving? Probably not. You don't have Disney Plus, right?
No, I know what it is, though. Yeah.
It is like the greatest kids show / adults show I've ever seen. I love it.
Yeah. What was it that made it good again? It's just like, what is it?
It's made as much for the parents as it is for the children.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's got quite a like complex view of adulthood and parenthood.
Right.
They obviously, like, your little child is not going to pick up on. They're going to pick up on like the fun stuff the kids are doing and like the moral lesson that is learned by the end of each show. But like, it's honestly as much for the parents, and all that's going to go over the little kid's head.
Right.
It's a really beautiful show. I mean, there are some episodes that aren't quite as good, but out of 153 or 155 episodes, it's got a lot of good stuff in it. I've been rewatching it. It's not hard. Most of the episodes are like 5 minutes long or 6 minutes long, so not hard to like just watch one or two at a time.
Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, these questions of what to show my kids is becoming relevant. So
there you go. Bluey is it would be my recommendation. Not that I am fully versed in like overall of kids shows at all, but at least from like, I'm not a parent, but like I think sympathize with the parents in the show, So I don't know. It's just a lot of it is quite beautiful.
Sweet. Kai says, talking Bluey. Sup, Kai, by the way. How's it going? I forgot to mention, so I'm trying something new again with Rumble. So I'm back on Rumble Studio again, which setting it up is so nice. Like, it's just, I click one button, it just works. But the drawbacks, as we can see if you're on YouTube or anywhere else, you can see the Rumble Studio logo, which I don't even think I can pay to remove, which absolutely annoys me. Especially because the placement's over the chat. The second thing you'll notice is that our unified chat on screen is broken. Like, it won't show Kai's message, unfortunately, because of the way things are routing. Now, I think I can fix that. The reason I'm back here, because actually, honestly, the logo thing bothered me so much that I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'll deal with Restream's garbage. The reason I'm back here is because I'm still annoyed with Restream's garbage. They keep plopping their link in front of our description, which, hey, free, I understand it. I get why they do that, but it's annoying. And Rumble added a way for you to get revenue regardless of your size, which is extremely fascinating. And the way that this is you can just pick. They have basically a bounty of I might as well do the Rumble ad read right now. I don't know. There's a Rumble one. I don't know exactly how it works. In fact, I might not be able to do it right this stream. We'll see. But I can basically pick an ad read, do the ad read live, and then we get paid per live viewer on Rumble, which is super cool. And I just wanted to technologically see if it's working properly or whatever. And I just have to read like a little tiny script. And there's a promotion that they're doing that's kind of hefty at something like 20 cents a viewer. If that's hefty, if you're pulling in, lots of views. Obviously, for us, that'd be zero. Not zero, but very tiny. But so I'm experimenting with this again. I was reminded by how beautifully easy it is to set up, so I'm kind of attracted to it again. We'll see how this goes. But if you are fine with the little logo on the top corner there, especially because we're going to be redoing this entire layout and everything. Probably not in the too distant future, actually. And making everything look nice, we can take into account that logo is there. I have no shame in Rumble itself. I love them for making YouTube very, very mad every day. I love competition very much. But yeah, just let me know if that bothers you, or the stream quality is bad or audio is bad. I don't know. Just let me know if there's any issues before I make that decision, because I don't want to make it lightly. Especially if this ad read thing ends up being a helpful thing. But we'll see. And the reason I also picked it for this episode is because I put Bitcoin in the title, which was a huge gamble, because that's probably some sort of trigger word in the algorithm for do not show people this video. Mostly because I've seen channels get shut down. Hopefully that doesn't happen to us. I don't think that's happened in a long time. Just for having like Bitcoin or crypto related keywords. I'm even saying them out loud. And the reason this happens is because there's a lot of crypto scams out there. And so things get downranked and whatever. And because we're not a big channel, we may not survive that process. So I was like, well, might as well, if Rumble, which doesn't do that at all, works out well, should reward them for allowing me to do this properly on their end. I don't know. We'll see. But that's my thinking with that. Sweet. Well, I think that's it for the opening segment. Should we just hop into the econ? Sweet.
Sounds good to me.
Sweet, yeah. So if you're new to the show, we do the show in segments. Usually we have a third with us, Nathan, and we take turns rotating, doing a topic and doing our Arguing with Reddit segment for the day. And we usually talk and chat at the beginning, which is what we did now. But now we'll be transitioning to talking about the main event, the title event, which is about assets. Bitcoin will feature heavily in that, but honestly, it's a much bigger picture. It'll be extremely beginner friendly, whether you know anything about these things or not. I wanted to share the fruit of a brain blast that I had recently, and I think it should be not too hard to understand. So we'll be going over that in the next segment. And then after that, we'll play Arguing with Reddit with Ben. All right. And I'm going to use the movies transition, but obviously this is not movies. So here we go.
Mixed Media Movies.
And welcome back to Mixed Media. This is our second segment of the day, where I'll be talking about Bitcoin and hard assets. But before I do that, we should reintroduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella, based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hi, my name is Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer.
Right. So I think I'm going to break out the tablet, and I'm going to draw, because I think it'll make it more engaging. It should actually be pretty easy to understand without me drawing, but I don't want it to be like extremely dry and boring. So that's how I'm going to fix that. Talking about art is much more exciting, especially for our core audience. So this is quite a bit of a difference. Before we hop into that, while I'm pulling this out, we should kind of get an idea of what the goal of this conversation is. So a while back on the show, I'd done multiple episodes on the state of the economy. I've done episodes on Bitcoin even, or other cryptos. We've actually done crypto roundtables, but that had more to do with NFTs, which is completely unrelated to what we'll be talking about today. I think my last advice, not advice, I never give advice. There's no financial advice in this episode or any episode I've ever done. So do not be deluded in thinking so. Go find a financial advisor. I am not your financial advisor, nor legal advisor, nor anything of the sort. So now that's out of the way. The last thing I think I said about Bitcoin was that I was completely divesting from it, or at least hardly divesting from it, because its behavior was very odd, right? We saw it start to very closely tie and mirror to the S&P 500, and that spooked me out because I couldn't explain it entirely. I mean, I could explain it some way, but I wasn't comfortable, and I'm very precarious situation with my own finances, in the sense that I have a baby coming up, and I've got this house purchase going on, which just there's a lot of things going on in my life, so I'm not risk tolerant right now. I'm risk averse, so ended up making that move. The other things that you might have heard on this podcast too, in the not too distant past, is that banking crises are a thing, and potentially a very big problem. And I'll be honest, I really thought by now that we would have seen more banking crises. Now, we have seen many stress responses in the banking system, but relatively few collapses given the numbers that we're looking at, in terms of stressors, given the amount of negative catalysts that are around. It's very bizarre. Guy says, instructions unclear, advice received. No advice, none, zero. Do not sue me. I will I will clip this section and I will play this in court. I'm not giving you financial advice. Okay. So my goal here is to kind of give us a background as to why that might be. Why is it that we are looking at basically all red indicators in the economy, basically across the board? Inverted yield curves. You don't have to know what these things mean, but inverted yield curves, very volatile inflation reads, very volatile jobs reports. External to the United States, we have really horrible numbers coming out of Europe, like terrifying numbers coming out of Europe. And we've got financial issues happening in China. We've got the Japanese yen basically like about to keel over any minute now. Like, we've got a lot of things going on, and yet stocks keep going up like crazy. The real estate market keeps going up, or maybe not as fast as it was before, but yeah, definitely still chugging along. Why aren't there crashes? That's the question, right? Because if you asked me a while back, I know I didn't comment on this, but if you asked me a while back, I would have said that we probably would have been in the poo by now. So why aren't we in the poo? So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about this. The thing that we need to get out of this as the general public is how this kind of knowledge can help you to not also be in the poo as much as everybody else, hopefully, when the time comes, and what sorts of things we need to be looking at in terms of your own decision making. I can't tell you what to do, but if you're looking at it, you're looking at it the same way I do. What decisions you might make on your own upon your own research, right? So that's what we'll be doing, and that requires a little bit of background. So let me pull up this live whiteboard here if I can. Oh wait, I solved this problem. Hold on, give me a second. Let's see if I can do this here. Where is my stupid board? Oh, there it is. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I may attempt to do this on my computer because I just realized I don't have some stuff linked to my tablet here. Actually, you know how I can do this? I can do this through Discord here. Sorry about this. Technical stuff. Where is Discord? There it is. Okay. All right, so this should allow me to do the thing. Hopefully. No. All right. Let me pull this into the live editor so we can all see together. And if you're listening to audio only sometime in the future, I will be descriptive, so you don't have to worry about not being able to see it. This is honestly just so we can all not be bored out of our minds, and we can kind of get a visual grasp on things. I'm going to change the view here probably to our Arguing with Reddit view because it makes it simpler. Let's see, we'll do that. We'll do this. All right. Oh, get rid of that. Fun live editing. Fun live editing. But if you're familiar with mixed media, this should be nothing new to you. Okay. You repurpose this. All right. This should work for our purposes. There we are. Beautiful. Beautiful whiteboard that is totally ready. Completely not haphazard at all. This is what we'll be doing. All right, so let's first talk about money. Because money is kind of the interesting thing here, because you've probably heard a lot of talk about money from a lot of different people. Now, there's something called a currency. Particularly, we'll be talking about the concept of a fiat currency. And fiat currencies are things like the US dollar. We have things like, why does it have my face? Oh, that's not a face. What the heck is? Okay, fine. Whatever. I don't know why it's being weird. The US dollar, we have the yen, right? We have the yuan, the peso, the whatever. You get the idea. We have many currencies that are particularly backed by governments. And the United States currency is the US dollar. If you go back to an episode that I highly, highly recommend, which was about debt-driven economies and how they affect art, you'll understand that the US dollar is something called a reserve currency. And this status is extremely important because it means that currencies like the yen do not control international monetary behavior, right? It's not going to be the yen's behavior that dictates the globe's monetary situation. And then again, I'm simplifying because I'm trying to keep this extremely beginner level. Now, this US dollar, which is every single greenback in your wallet, right? Like, your wallet contains your US dollars. That's what we're talking about here. But there's a difference between, oh, that's my cursor. That is so cool. I didn't even realize that that's what that was. Okay, That's so sick. That's really nice. Okay. The US dollar is backed by cash, like real US dollars. I'll just call it cash for simplicity. And weirdly encompasses the idea, I would actually argue it's a different currency, but something called the euro dollar. Now, the idea of the euro dollar is extremely complicated. I'm not going to get into it in this episode. If you'd like to hear me talk about this on some Fun Friday or something like this, this is an extremely fascinating topic that very few people really understand the implications of. But these I'm going to call fake dollars. These are fake, and these are real. Now, cash is a misnomer. Like, a lot of it's just digital ones and zeros in some domestic bank account or something like this. But you get the idea. The important distinction here is that euro dollars are dollars outside the United States. That's the definition, actually. That is not cash. So, like, dollars outside the United States that isn't like literal greenbacks. So it could be ones and zeros that have USD labeled after them. You know, like, it's like, oh, some guy in Switzerland, he has his bank account. Some Swiss guy has his bank account. Swiss bank is kind of a hot topic right now, but he's got his bank account, and his bank account literally says on it, I have 1,000 USD. But he doesn't have 1,000 like greenbacks. He's got this bank account that says when he has 1,000 USD. This is actually not USD. This is actually 1,000. Let's call it EUD. I don't know. That's not a real acronym, but just for fun, we'll call it EUD. So he has 1,000 euro dollars. The reason this money isn't real is it's because it's created by debt alone. Meaning, the United States Federal Reserve, which controls a lot of monetary policy for the United States, basically, a piece of the U.S. apparatus did not give $1,000 to Swiss Bank. So we have the U.S. Federal Reserve over here. This entity did not give that $1,000 to that Swiss bank to loan out to this person. The Swiss bank just said, we're loaning out $1,000 denominated in US dollars to this person. And you might be saying, that's kind of wacky and crazy. And yes, it's actually nuts. But that's a whole other topic for another day. We're not gonna care about why that is, the history of it, although it's also fascinating to me. But that's for another day. The point they have to understand is that if this Swiss bank were to, let's say, fail, and this person really wanted their 1,000 USD now, right? And they want to transfer it into, I don't know, their US bank, or they wanted to get actual physical dollars from it. They probably won't be able to. It depends on the circumstance, but likely they won't be able to, because this Swiss bank is not required to actually have this 1,000 USD in its possession. And that's crazy, but that's a whole other thing.
Do they have? Does Switzerland use the euro?
Right. So they'll have other assets like the euro. They might have other currencies. They may have U.S. treasuries, right? Or they might have property or something. They might have a whole bunch of stuff, and they might be able to sell that for real U.S. dollars to cover this transaction, or they might not, because it's not liquid, right? So we don't know if they can sell it for U.S. dollars or not, which is fascinating.
Okay, but it's not like the person has no money, right? They put the money in the bank, so they should be able to, in theory, withdraw like whatever the appropriate currency that's not U.S. dollars.
No, actually. So this loan is denominated in dollars. So
as a loan, not like an actual, like, this is the money I deposited in my account.
No, yeah. So this person didn't have the US dollars to begin in. No one had the US dollars to begin with. That's what makes it so crazy. And so instead, we have this system is called the Eurodollar system, where foreign banks lend US dollar denominated debt to entities within their countries. And the Federal Reserve has nothing to do with this process. They don't check it off. They don't even keep. There's something called the ledger, which is supposed to be written, that keeps track of all of these fake dollars, and it's supposed to be sent to the Fed for them to do whatever they say that they do with the numbers. That ledger is, as you can imagine, extremely inaccurate because it's just self-reporting. Even if everyone involved was completely unnefarious, whatever, it'd be hard to keep track of trillions of dollars of offshore US dollars and how they're being lent into existence. Now, the first thing I think that should come to almost anyone's mind when we're like, wow, this money can just be created out of nothing, and there doesn't have to be an asset that backs it. What is that? Let me clear this actually so that we can explain this right. How do I do that? Clear layer. There we go. Normally, when we think of inflation, right, we think of a money printer. We've got our little money printer over here, and it's just like going crazy, spitting out US dollars. And depending on the particular money printer that's being employed or who's employing the money printer in the United States, sometimes it's Congress, sometimes it's the Fed, sometimes it's never really. Oh, what is that? Hello, that was not welcome. We're not allowed to do that.
Tragic marmoset.
I guess that's my anonymous name or something.
Oh, okay. Got it.
What are you doing? I can't wait. Do I have to log in order to enjoy this privilege? Hold on, I'll log in. Oh no! Stop it! The intro is playing. This is a great episode. Reminds me of the best classics. Let me close this real quick and log in so we're not pestered by. Oh, what? Oh, that's really dumb. Let's see if I can just refresh here and get back. Oh, that's so silly. That is very, very, very annoying. All right, I'll create another account for just this purpose. But oh, come on. I was just hitting my stride here with the explanation. I had a beautiful printer drawn and everything. Okay. Wow. Google does not want me to use this because the browser is suspect. I've never seen that before either. I'm using the browser built into my editor, which I guess is kind of strange. Let's try continue with Discord. Well, let me do it that way. See if it'll let me do it that way. And I think it will. So Discord is not sussed out by this browser. Nice. What is happening? All right, I think we're back here. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, back to the explanation. Okay, whatever. We have actors within the U.S. government or the U.S. apparatus. Technically, the Fed's not part of the government. Technically. So that's a whole topic for another day. And they can turn on the money printer whenever they want, basically, and just create more of these US dollars. Now, inflation is a very, very complicated topic, like extremely so. So I don't want my explanation here to come off as I'm just saying this is it or whatever. I want people to understand simple inflation, monetary inflation, what I would call like definitional monetary inflation, which is something that I think people have heard explanations about, which is that let's say you had some MacGuffin. Actually, no, we gotta make it a little different there. M for MacGuffin. We've got an object that people desire, and let's say before inflation, before we printed U.S. dollars, let's say we only printed one U.S. dollar. So we've got one US dollar is what this MacGuffin costs. But now we print a second US dollar. Well, if the MacGuffin was the only thing in the world to buy, and you had to buy the MacGuffin with US dollars, you would be forced. Economics would dictate that this MacGuffin is now worth $2. Let's put it a different way. You have a certain amount of goods and services. And let's say there is a box full of $1,000 that everyone in the world, or everyone in the country, that's the amount of dollars in circulation in the entire country. Well, the way this $1,000 will circulate to buy any particular goods and service will be different in the universe where we have $2,000 chasing after the same amount of goods and services. So let's say there's exactly 10 goods and services. There's 10 goods and services of equal value in each universe. 10 and only 10. And it doesn't change. This is why it gets complicated, because this is all contrived, obviously, for illustrative purposes.
I like how, we're talking about goods and services, in contrast to like Daniel Ek, right? And where only goods have money, right? Music it's you write music. Now that's nothing, right? It doesn't cost you anything, right? It doesn't exist, right?
Yes.
It's a service, at the very least, right? It provides you some service somehow in some abstract way, right?
No, it's valueless, Ben. It's completely and utterly valueless. Anyway, in the world where we have the same 10 goods and services, but we now have $2,000 in circulation, everything in this universe is going to compensate its price to be twice as expensive. This transition from maybe this world to this world, we would call inflation, like as the act of everything becoming twice as expensive. Now, reality is way more complicated than this. There's like a lot of different sources of price inflation. That word is already a loaded word to begin with that has a billion definitions. This is what I call true monetary inflation. To keep it simple, there's things like cost push inflation or supply side inflation. There's like a lot of different things involved with this, but that's your little refresher as to what inflation is. If you're still confused, ask ChatGPT what monetary inflation is according to, I don't know what school of thought. Rational school of thought. I don't know. If you ask ChatGPT, it'll probably give you an answer that's close to this. So we know that we can print more US dollars and that these people do that. These people can turn on that printer. Well, what happened recently? This printer has been going crazy. This printer has been going crazy because we're told by these folks over here two things. I'm not saying they're true, and they're not. But I'll set that aside for a while, for a time in the future. But we're told by these people that likely from Congress, it's worth it, bro, to spend even more money. It's just worth it, and trust me, bro, basically. Um, and but from the Fed, we're told we don't print money. What are you talking about? Well, they print at least 10 times more money than Congress was printing by spending the money. But the sort of other side of this whole thing, the reason why I brought up the Eurodollar is because this is not the only way money gets printed. It also gets printed overseas by these international bank entities denominating the debt in US dollars. And which pie would you think is a lot larger? Who prints more money? Is it these people over here, or is it the rest of the world? Is it these people over here, or the entirety of the rest of the globe? And by the way, the US dollar is the reserve currency, which means that everyone basically has to use it to buy oil, to buy whatever. So, although the petrodollar is actually a completely and separate concept that I won't go into now, it's not the same as the Eurodollar, but it's more real actually than the Eurodollar, which is a completely fake currency. The rest of the world prints a lot more US dollars than these people over here. Now, that's not to say that what these people over here do is unimportant. And that's actually the magic of what we're going to go through today, is that these two different kinds of printing are different but yet related. So in the rest of the world, they've got their money printer, and it's spitting out not USDs, but EUDs, for the lack of better things. So Eurodollars is what's coming out of their printers. We're told that these two dollars are the exact same, and these people are spending the EUDs as if they are USDs. Okay, great. Now this system has been in place since the 80s, the Eurodollar system. In fact, there used to be a Eurodollar index. That tells you that it's a separate currency. There used to be a Eurodollar index that you could track, and the Eurodollar index would tell you what the value of a Eurodollar was in relation to a dollar, a real US dollar. Which is kind of odd if you think about it, because when you look at the bank account itself, it just says USD. Like, it doesn't. There's no difference between it and real USD on the bank account side. But there used to be an index that would track the parity of the EUD versus the USD. Okay, so since the 80s, basically this has been going on, and whenever there's economic stress, what would happen, just take my word for it because I can't go into the history and why and how I know this, but what would happen basically is that these entities over here, mostly this one, although it doesn't want to admit it, mostly this one would turn on the money printer, call it stimulus, although they're not printing they're not printing. The Fed doesn't print, is what they would say. But they do print. They print way more than Congress can. And what they were doing is they were shoring off the Eurodollars. Let me put it this way. Let me draw this out so it makes more sense. Basically, when the whole world was in financial stress, like in 2008, the financial markets are all horrible, the Fed would print a bunch of USD to cover the loans written in EUD. Let's see what this looks like if we're looking at this in a particular example. So let's go back to the Swiss bank. You've got $1,000 USD, but it's not USD. It's actually, I can't do it that way. Let's erase this. It's actually EUD in the Swiss bank. Well, the Swiss bank starts to fail for whatever particular reason of whatever financial crisis we're talking about. It starts to fail, and it doesn't actually have USD. And the owner of this $1,000 loan really does think they have real USD. So even if the bank fails, in their mind, they're going to get that USD. Well, what the Fed was doing was saying, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to, whoa, how's that possible? Didn't know that was possible. Oh, I was on the fill bucket. Whoops. Let me back out here. What they were doing is they were printing $1,000 in USD and loaning it to the Swiss National Bank. And maybe I should point it in a different direction. Really, it was being loaned to the bank. They would print $1,000. They would loan it to the Swiss National Bank for some really tiny percentage. Let's say 2%. I mean that's a great loan, right? Like, Swiss National Bank is going, you know what? As long as we can get through this crisis, we'll take the loan for 2% for $1,000 USD, and we'll be able to cover this fake USD over here with actual real USD. Fantastic. But is this good for the people on this side of the equation in the USA? Is this a good thing? No, because what this causes is inflation. Because let's imagine the United States as a closed system. It's not a closed system, but let's simplify because it's, for the purposes of this explanation, it's basically a closed system. In the United States, all the dollars are real. Like, by definition, they are real. For one reason or the other, but they're all the dollars in the US are real. If you have to sue someone for lack of payment and the dollars came from an American bank account into another bank account, ones and zeros, whatever, that money is real because the government will shoot you if you don't accept it as payment for a debt. If you look at some money, I got some money here. Where is it? Let's see. So it says, this note is legal tender. Oh, come on, focus. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, is what it says. Public and private. Meaning, if you owe someone money, and you're like, bruh, but I want to pay it in gold. But the guy's like, well, I've got US dollars. I don't have gold, and that's all I'm going to pay you with. The government, if you don't want to do that, will shoot you if you don't. In the sense that, like, if you said, I'm refusing to, and you refuse to be arrested or whatever, you fought back. I mean, everything at the end of the day is enforced by violence, right? That's how it works, right? So the USA stored dollars are real dollars because they are made real by the monopoly of the state, basically. So as long as your dollars are onshore in the United States, that's the case. If you're in Switzerland, that thing on the money is not related to you. That says all debts, public and private. Yeah, the Swiss government is not going to enforce the US dollar as a means of payment because they have their own national currency, right? That is supposed to function for that same purpose. So these are two separate closed systems for the purposes of our discussion. In the United States, this closed system that contains dollars, when we print more dollars, when we print more of these dollars, let's say we print 1,000 of them, in the closed system itself, we are experiencing monetary inflation by necessity. It doesn't matter if you see it in the prices. This is the part that's hard to understand. Like, your groceries may not go up, your whatever may not go up, but there is a way in which monetary inflation, some goods or services are actually inflating, even though you may not feel them on your own day-to-day. Margins might be being squished on the company's ends. Assets might be inflating, and you might not be thinking about that because you're not in the market for a particular asset. Whatever it is, inflation occurs. So when the Fed was doing this to cover the butts of people like the Swiss bank, lending at 2%, which is less than inflation, so money is being printed. When this was occurring, we were literally hurting ourselves to save the rest of the Eurodollar system from collapse. And you say, well, what's the incentive to do that? That's a really good question. Not for today. It's it should be quite mysterious to you that that this is allowed to occur. But that's again a story for another day. Let's see here. So, what's happening today? We're experiencing a lot of stress. Let's say garden variety stress that's turned into really bad stress, like unprecedented stress in the financial markets. Loans are very, very precarious. The Chinese real estate market is hanging on by a thread. It's a giant asset bubble. In the United States, our own real estate market's an asset bubble, particularly the commercial real estate market. Our stocks are a gigantic asset bubble. It's going crazy. All the indicators are red. And what is the Fed doing this time around? It's not doing any of this. It is not loaning any money to the Swiss bank, which is fascinating. And that should also fascinate you. Why now is it different than before? Maybe because now it's actually way worse than it ever used to be. That's a really depressing answer that I won't go into now. But maybe it's because if we were to do this, for the amount of missing, let's say in the reality, the amount missing is actually $100 trillion. Incomprehensible amount of money. Let's say this is actually what the Eurodollar system doesn't have backed by real US dollars. And the Fed goes, well, we could loan you $100 trillion. We could print that money, but we'll kill the United States in the process. Because we'll inflate so hard, right, that the U.S. economy would die. In fact, we'd go into an inflationary depression, right? The U.S. currency, the actual dollar itself, would just literally die. In fact, the rest of the world who has real U.S. dollars, like they actually have like backed U.S. real greenbacks. So governments carry real dollars, either like physical dollars or on a ledger that's actually backed by the Fed, like a Fed created, ledger. So this is real money. If the rest of the world has a bunch of US dollars and the Fed goes, you know what, we're going to print 100 trillion more of them to cover the people who need the real $100 trillion. In fact, this becomes unacceptable to everybody. Because if you're holding any of these real dollars, anyone who's holding these real dollars gets destroyed by inflation. So let's say it's just that bad. Let's just assume it's just that bad. It's just that bad. If that's the case, what can we expect to happen if the Fed does not loan this $100 trillion? I'm going to delete everything again so that we can go into a new section here. And this is kind of the hard part because it's never happened. And I refuse to believe this theory that actually it's proven itself out over time, which is the reason why my mind has changed somewhat on the particulars of this theory. But I refuse to believe it because whenever someone says this time it's different, you should be very suspect because it's like, it's almost never this time it's different, right? Like that's almost never the case, right? Usually history repeats itself. But this time it is different, and we've seen indicators that show us that it is in fact a monetary liquidity problem that's happening internationally. Okay. So just take my word for it. Do your own research if you're super interested in that topic. We were really interested in what will happen if the Fed doesn't cover these Eurodollars. Well, imagine you're a Swiss mining company. Swiss Miner Inc. Swiss Miners Inc. Let's say it's collectively owned. That's pretty cool. Swiss Miners Inc. Right? And you mine widgets. You mine widgets out of the ground. And these widgets you immediately exchange for US dollars. So you take these widgets and you turn them into USD, or what you think is USD. And you are thinking you have all this USD widgets around, but actually what you're doing is you're selling these widgets to some middleman, who is then selling this to some international market. So you're selling those widgets to some middleman, and the middleman gets you the USD and pays you out, whatever. So basically what I'm trying to say is, in this system, this Swiss miner is making USD primarily because he's selling internationally. It's convenient and easy to sell denominated in the reserve currency, and it's considered stable until it's not. Right. So you're like, okay, USD is what I'm going to be receiving as the Swiss miner. But actually, let's say this middleman, unbeknownst to you, is receiving Eurodollars. Because all of his clients are buying these widgets in loans from Eurodollars. Now, to you, it's all denominated the same. You're like, I made $10,000, right? And you can just go to the exchange and exchange those Eurodollars for Swiss francs. Is that what they are? Swiss, I think they're francs, right? I don't remember. Whatever the Swiss currency is. You can exchange them and you can buy your kids, a gift. You can go eat some food, whatever you're going to do with them. But you do that kind of like, you don't do that in chunks. You do that like as you go. Like, I need to pay payroll this month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take $1 million USD and I'm going to convert that into Swiss currency, and then I'm going to distribute that to the employees. But the bulk of my bank account is filled with USD, basically, right? But it's actually Eurodollars. Now, you're in Switzerland. You're stuck over there, and over here we have the United States. Wow, how did it get so big? Oh, I know how this happens. There we go. Over here in the United States, we don't have Eurodollars. We have real USD just floating around, like just everywhere. There's just USD everywhere. Like people are paying for gas in it. People are giving out loans in it, whatever. And let's say that economic stressor happens. And these international buyers start to default on their loans denominated in Eurodollars. And the middleman says, bro, I don't think I can get you any more USD. I don't think I have any more buyers. They just don't have money. In fact, their loans are being called. In fact, the banks that are backing them are failing. I don't know what you want me to do. I think you should be selling widgets in francs, maybe domestically or something. You got to figure yourself out, because I'm outie. I don't know what to do here. So now we have the stressor, which kills the buyer. And again, this is a gross oversimplification just for everyone to understand. This Swiss miner is now like, oh my goodness, I am going to starve out because I don't have enough money to operate. I don't have enough money to pay payroll. I don't have enough money to do anything. So I'm going to try to do something first. The first thing they're going to try to do is get a loan denominated in USD, because that's how they do their business. And then the bank is going to go, we don't have any. Because even if they denominate things in Eurodollars, well, actually, let me back up. Let's say they say, okay, we'll give you loans, whatever. But the rate is like 30% or something. It's like really nasty, right? Or let's say they give it to you and the following happens, basically. I say, okay, I'm going to pay for payroll, so I'm going to convert my USD to Swiss currency to pay for payroll. And you realize these USD can barely buy Swiss currency all of a sudden. And it's basically because the euro dollars are I'm trying to simplify this so it doesn't become too hard to understand. The euro dollars are evaporating. Like the fakeness of them is becoming exposed, right? No one has real dollars at some level of the pipeline, and so no one wants them in exchange for Swiss money, right? So let's say you're the person who has the Swiss money, and you're accepting USD. You have no idea what's real USD, what's fake USD. In fact, you might as well consider it all fake if you're outside the United States, unless you have the literal hard cash, right? And you're like, well, how much Swiss francs would you give away to get fake money? Like very few, right? Like, you know, you're not going to give away a lot of Swiss money, which is real money, at least domestically, for fake US money. So you realize, wow, when I have to exchange my USD to pay payroll into Swiss money, I can't get as much Swiss money as I used to. In fact, it's like dying drastically over time. So what might happen? This Swiss miner might go, this is getting too bad. I'm going to go bankrupt. And I see this place over here, this beautiful land of real USD that the Fed won't allow us to have because it would destroy the United States entirely. I see this real USD and I really want it so I can survive. So what might they do? They might literally take their entire company and move to the United States. Because that's the only way to get real money. It's the only way. So they move to the United States, the land of the real money, and they start mining widgets in the United States and selling them internationally in USD. This process is a really complicated process, and it's occurring now. In fact, these Swiss Miner Inc. things, they're already moving to the United States. And this is the reason why in the United States, we feel like everything is okay. Because everything is less bad than it is outside. That's why. That's fundamentally what's going on here. If you went to Europe, let me delete this. If you went to Europe, you'd know that manufacturing is entirely dead. Part of this has to do with energy problems. Actually, 80% of it has to do with energy problems. But even if the energy problems weren't there, they don't have real dollars. And the stress on the economy is causing them to actually try to find real dollars. And so instead, they say, I need to manufacture elsewhere. Now, so for some of them, the answer is not the United States for a variety of reasons. But for some of them, it is. You'll notice that headquarters for certain companies have changed to the United States. This doesn't mean their mining operation changed to the United States. They could be still mining widgets in Switzerland, but they're not a Swiss company anymore. They're an American company because they moved their headquarters to the United States. This gives them access to real dollars. If they sued someone and wanted real dollars in the United States, they'd get real dollars. If they wanted to exchange those real dollars for Swiss money in the United States, they'd get an actual reasonable parity of the Swiss dollar to the US dollar. And that is why in the United States, inflation, bad, actually pretty horrible. I'm starting to feel it locally, which is bizarre to me because I never, like, locally here, it was basically an inflation haven. I mean, you know, I live in one of the cheapest cost of living places in the entire country likely, definitely in the 10th percentile, you know, or something like that. And even now, I'm starting to see the prices go up, so it sucks. It's starting to get really bad in the sense that it's starting to look like demand is drying up because the prices are going up even here, which is crazy. Yet, it's way worse outside the United States. So let's make a basket. Let's make a comparison. Here you have, and this is how things are actually shaping up. you have USD inflating at, I'm gonna BS a number because inflation numbers are all basically made up. The official numbers, they're a basket full of indicators that change all the time. I won't get into that. But the more important thing here is let's just BS a number. Let's say the USD is inflating at an annual rate of 12%, which is disturbing. This number is probably something like 10%, 10 to 14. I don't know. In terms of felt inflation, I don't know. It depends on who you ask. But the official number I think right now is something like 4. Anyway, that's a whole topic for another day. But USD is inflating at 12%. Real USD is inflating at 12% within the country. Because of the printing that the Fed is doing internal to the country, and because of a whole bunch of other factors going on in here as well. In fact, it's inflating that 12% because those Swiss miners are coming in, and they're bringing in some of the real dollars. But I'm not gonna complicate that too much. But then you look over there and you look at the Swiss money. And because of this whole churn that's going on, because of cost push inflation, because of what do you call that? Oh gosh, my brain terms. Anyway, because of the what do you call that? The flow of goods, basically. Like the way the goods flow through the system. Right? Is the term coming to you, Ben, at all? Okay. Supply chain. Oh my gosh, there we go. Supply chain caused inflation. There's a lot of things going on, but for many reasons, the Swiss money, relative to the US dollar, is inflating 20%. Relative to the US dollar, which makes it way worse. This is really bad. Sad. And you're like, oh, I'll go somewhere else. I'll go to, I don't know, get some French money. I don't know. Just making this up. And this is up 25%. Then I go to Germany. And that's up 30%. So on and so forth. Their inflation's way worse. And you're like, well, I can't use any of these to do my money with. So even though the US dollar is what's causing all this mayhem, I still need them. I still want them because they inflate way less. In the United States, that means that we feel it way less. And the Fed is making it so. Right? For better or for worse, whatever your opinion on that is, right? The Fed is making it so that we don't feel this. If they were to cover Swiss money like they used to, we would feel this actually maybe even more. So anyway, what does this mean? It means that eventually all these currencies, to a large degree, will be converted to US dollars. In fact, say this EUD, which is inflating at 75. I'm making that up. That's a ridiculous number, but this is just all made up for illustration, just to show that this number is way higher than these other numbers. But this euro dollar here, when these companies move to the United States, they turn into real dollars. Because remember, as long as the number is inside the United States, it's a real number. So if they bring their bank account into the United States with USD, now they're getting taxed in the United States, they're being regulated by the United States, it's a US company, the US government can do what it normally does to any company to it, right? And it renounces, or maybe, I don't know how it works, maybe they don't have to renounce, but and they bring in some proportion of their euro dollars into our system. As this happens, these real dollars, these fake dollars, magically turn into real dollars. This is going to cause long-term inflation for the United States. Long-term inflation for the United States. Because this process is slow, even though these processes are fast. This process of moving to the United States is extremely slow. And while it's occurring, people's ability to survive in a high-price environment is decreasing. So what happens first? Does everyone come from outside and go into the United States first? Or does everything get too expensive, even inside the United States, for the US to function anymore? I don't know. I don't know. Because when these people come in, yeah, they bring fake dollars, but they also bring in productivity. They bring in factories, they bring in jobs, they bring in stuff, right? So what is going to win out? Is it the amount of dollars chasing after the same number of goods and services, the amount of financing that's happening, or is it the amount of productivity that's going to be coming into the United States? I don't know. However, a feeling that I have that's backed by zero facts, a feeling that I have is that it won't happen fast enough. And the reason I say this is because I'm seeing people struggle price-wise way more. And I don't know how much time is left on that front where we can run the clock here. So, what does that have to do with assets? What does that have to do with assets? I had this is the reason why this episode exists. I had this extremely interesting revelation to myself. So, I've been preparing for economic crisis. One of the ways that I've been doing that is investing. But again, like I said, I'm kind of risk averse now, so I've changed the way I've invested to protect my money instead of trying to make more money, right? One of the classic ways to protect money is to buy metals, right? Silver and gold, right? Or copper or whatever other metal, right? Gold is going to be the number one loved store of value that there is out there. So I'm on the silver market because I've never invested in hard metals before. And when I say invested, I mean I literally have the coins. I wish I had one in front of me. I could show it. But I literally have silver coins in my safe, right? And why did I do that? I did that because inflation's crazy and silver and gold stabilize your store of value. Okay. But I'm also preparing in other ways. Like, I'm preparing to have enough goods also stored up in case something goes bad, especially if it's temporary in the near term. So let's say inflation is so bad that food becomes prohibitively expensive and then scarce, which is possible. So like, I don't know, corn is now $50. I'm making this up. It would never be $50. Everything would collapse before that happened. But, let's say corn becomes $50, then no one can buy the corn. Then the farmers go out of business, and then there's no corn being made. So that cycle happens, right? And food becomes scarce. Well, maybe there's a 2% chance of that happening. I don't know. But it'd be prudent for me and my family to have extra food on hand with current US dollars that can buy that same corn for $2, right? Right now I can get it for $2, so let me just grab a bunch of it. Corn is perishable, but you get what I mean. Get a bunch of unperishable stuff at today's money and store it away, because in the future, that future money won't be able to buy me that much food. So let me just put it away, and if I'm wrong, I still have food. I mean, last 10 years or whatever it is, like, I still have it. Nothing is lost, right? Okay. So the realization that I had when I bought the silver, it was cool and all, bought like $250 of silver just to see what the process of buying silver was like, and storing and all that kind of stuff. And I had the question to myself. I was like, why did I do that when I could just have bought more food? In fact, why did I do that when I could have actually bought, I have a rifle, right? So I could have bought more ammo because that one bullet is like a whole deer, right? And a bullet's like what? Like I don't know what it is right now, like 50 cents a round. Buy one bullet and I go get one deer. I paid 50 cents for a whole deer. You see what I mean? Like it the ratio of food getting ability to expense is way higher with bullets. So why did I buy silver when I could have bought bullets? And then I was thinking to myself, why am I asking that question? That's crazy. Because why is it that bullets are a more reliable store of value or give me more value than silver? When silver is a traditional store of value.
I mean, you have to factor in other things like your actual skill at hunting season, hunting licenses.
Oh, for sure. But like, if push came to shove, and I'm not a hunter whatsoever, so I have a friend who is a hunter who promised to teach me, so we'll see how that goes. I'm very averse to it, like on a personal level, because I really adore animals a lot. But yeah, that's a whole line of stuff. But I am a carnivore, like anyone else. So, any case, why are bullets competing with silver? And this led me down a whole chain of thinking and looking into other people's thoughts, because this is not normal. Like, it shouldn't be that I can reliably store value in bullets. Bullets, when you shoot them, they literally just evaporate. Like, the value all goes away. It shouldn't make sense that bullets have like any utility whatsoever compared to silver, which doesn't corrode. It's a traditional store of value, so I could probably trade it. It's got nice divisibility. Once it's traded to somebody, it can be traded again, which means it can be a medium of exchange. Like, silver should be a superior store of value, or gold. And I was like, but I was stupid for buying that silver. I know it, because if I bought 1,000 rounds instead, that's like potentially 500 to 1,000 deer. And
okay, there's no way the state is letting you get that bag that many.
Well, not in a year, but you get what I mean. Yeah, and of course they're not going to. I mean, I don't need 500 to 1,000 deer to survive in a year. But you get what I mean. I could trade it to someone who has 0, right? And they would probably. I mean, if food is so scarce and the situation is so dire that the U.S. dollar cannot procure your food anymore, and you are in the market for bullets, and you've ran out, or you've never had any, or whatever. What's those 100 rounds going to be worth to you, given that you can bag 50 to 100 deer with them? A lot. And I was like, what? I don't know. My brain is doing backflips, and I'm not understanding why what I'm saying makes sense internally, but like from like an econ theory perspective is bothering me, right? And then I realized through like the musings of other very brilliant people, much smarter than me, 20 times more informed, than me and everything, that this is because those bullets stored value better than the US dollar. And this is because those bullets were more real than the US dollar. What does that mean? This piece of paper, this in my bank account, wherever this resides, I can't control its value at all. This always has the same value. And to me, it's a hunting value, right? That's the primary way I would think of it in terms of its actual value. Its utility is immense. Its utility is relative to what's going on economically. And in times where this is unreliable, this looks a lot better because it's real. It's a real object that does one thing and has a real discernible effect in the world. This does not. And that means this is harder money than this. This is soft money. Meaning, in the current economy, where things are this bad, inflation is this uncontrolled, the euro-dollar market is this crazy, everything's going nuts. In this environment, it is easier for me to imagine trading these things than trading these things if it came down to it. In a recession, you don't necessarily lose the ability to trade these things. This thing might stay like relatively, stable enough that you just continue using it. In a depression, especially an inflationary depression, your currency is dead, is dying. We're talking about like Weimar Republic style, like your inflation, your currency is toast. And so you store your money in things. And some of those things are obviously more valuable than others. Now, that's a whole other rabbit hole that I can rant about for a long time. But to wrap this whole thing up into the reason why we're here, which is talking about Bitcoin and other hard assets, is now in a time of uncertainty, we don't want to get rid of all of our US dollars. I'm not saying that. In fact, I'm not giving you any financial advice. But we want to understand if we're making a play for what is safe to hold long-term through the storm, even if there's a 2% chance, but I can still sell that back and get some money for it. I can still store value in those things. What can those things be? Like, what is money today? What is the hardest money there is? And my answer to you would be there's three major categories. The third is kind of situational. 3 major categories. There's gold and similar metal type things. There's Bitcoin. And there's actually 4, I should say. There's property. And there's stuff. So in the stuff category would be things like bullets, things like simple cookware, like a cast iron pan or something like that, where it's like you can't really destroy that thing very easily, at least. I don't know what you're doing to destroy a cast iron pan. That thing lasts, right? Its utility is extremely high to almost anybody, right? Same with a bullet. So that last category is the most situational, which is why I was like, it's kind of a category because it's highly situational. But these 3 are fascinating. Because real money, hard money, the hardest of money, and this is why I'm a convert on this question. because before I was like, why on earth is Bitcoin following the stock market? It's because the stock market, the SPY or whatever, the S&P 500, these things are more money. These are more money, more hard money than USD. The reason stocks are going up like crazy is because companies are realer than dollars. This is kind of abstract, but it makes sense if you think about it. If the currency is inflating, you've got tons of US dollars, and if you don't use them, you lose them, effectively. Well, there's only so many bullets you're going to buy if you're a rich person. Right? There's only so many bunkers you can build, so many cars you can buy. There's only so many private jets. So where are you going to store it for the future where you want to buy something else in the future? You're going to store it in stocks. That's everyone's go-to. That's everyone's favorite thing. Stocks are looking like this. It's a parabolic right now. They're just going up like crazy. They're just going up like nuts. And you're like, well, I can trust this more than the US dollar, so I'm going to yeet my dollars into stocks. Hedge funds are doing this. The numbers are crazy. The hedge funds are doing this. And guess who knows this is the process? The Fed. Because they know that this will keep commodity inflation down to a 12% when the stock market's going up like 50%. Like all the inflation's going into the stock market. They're happy to let stocks be harder money than the US dollar because it saves the US dollar from immediate collapse, even if long term there's still issues. Stocks are money. When you buy Tesla stock, it's more real than the US dollar. And Bitcoin is just another asset. It's just another money. And Bitcoin is actually harder money than even those things. Because these things are affected by government policy, they're affected by a whole bunch of extremely volatile, not very good money at all. But that tells you just how bad dollars are. If everyone's putting their money... In fact, think about it this way. Everyone in the Eurodollar market can buy stocks with their Eurodollars. Which should boggle your mind. Your fake dollars, the fake dollars that they have, they can just go to their exchange and they can buy any company in the United States with your Eurodollars. Meaning they can exchange their fake money for real money. Bitcoin's just another vehicle for that. So that's why Bitcoin's graph looks so similar to the stock graph. But why is this harder money? Because no one controls it. And why is it that literal countries now are converting their reserves to Bitcoin? This should be shocking to you. There are countries who are backing their reserves not with US dollars, not with Eurodollars, not with their own currency, not with even gold. Some of them are using Bitcoin. In fact, there's an allegation that the Fed is using Bitcoin too. Just like they're using stocks, they're also using Bitcoin. Governments trust this more than they trust their own currency. That is the end for me. Because this thing, with all its properties, resembles gold so much. These things are so similar to each other, except this has none of the drawbacks except for dependency on the internet and electricity. Gold has that over Bitcoin, of course. That is crazy. So, not financial advice, Bitcoin, pay attention to it. It's a real thing. And the value of it is very cheap right now because of it. Because while this may crash one day, the stock market, the Bitcoins never crash. They'll never crash. Because when these crash, where's that money going to go? Where's that USD going to go? It's going to go right into any other harder asset, whether it's Bitcoin, gold, or property. But Bitcoin is one of the available solutions, and the more people who trust it, the more governments who own it, the more exchangeable it becomes, the more liquid it becomes, the more day-to-day things you can do with it, the value is going to go... Like, we're not even close. We're not even close. In fact, if the Federal Reserve wants to save its own butt, it may choose Bitcoin. That's how crazy this question is. Right now, though, to hedge this whole conversation, they're choosing gold. Which should shock you. We are not on the gold standard. We have been told over and over again, gold standard's evil. Gold standard's evil. It's horrible. It's horrible. Reduces growth. It slows down production. Whatever. All these nonsense things that we've been told. And yet, so many countries right now are fleeing out of US dollars, petrodollars, eurodollars into gold. Who's doing this? Russia's doing this. China's doing this. Can't remember if it's Brazil or if it's there's a major South American country that's doing this. All of Africa is basically doing this. Who's not doing this? Only Europe. is not doing this. Only Europe is not doing this, pretty much. Is the United States doing this? Sneakily, we are. We don't want to admit it. We're actually kind of doing this too. And what happens when every country in the world decides, I don't like the fiat system anymore. We don't trust it anymore. What do they do when they enter gold? Everyone's actually using the same currency. And what does that remind you of? Bitcoin. It's the same thing. When everyone has gold, they trade in gold. Okay, yeah, I'm trading yuan, I'm trading rubles, I'm trading whatever thing I'm trading. But because those things are now backed by gold, I'm just trading gold, just denominated in different currencies. If the US dollar goes the same way, when I trade in US dollars, I also trade it in gold. Which means that we have a distributed, anyone can pull gold out of the ground. That's not an exclusive, no one can control, not easily at least, who pulls gold out of the ground and then, circulates it in the world. This is a distributed process. And so is Bitcoin. So some of these countries are picking gold because it's probably familiar to them. But on this side, we've got basically South America. We've got the US question mark. And we've got a whole lot of other countries looking at it as well. China, which hates distributed means, despises it because they can't control it, is looking at making an analog to Bitcoin that is based on Bitcoin. So they'll call it like China coin, right? But they'll peg one China coin to one Bitcoin. They're literally talking about this in China right now because everyone's currencies are dying. Crazy stuff. Property. What's the problem with property? The problem is that you buy property with debt, which makes it less real. So it's the least hard of the three. It's harder than stuff, for sure. If you don't have any property, if you have none, you are in very bad shape. Very bad. Why? Rents are denominated in the same thing that's dying all around here. Next month, your rent is $1,000. Or sorry, in 1 year, your rent's $1,000. Next year is $2,000. Next year is $4,000. Next year it's $6,000. Why? Because your landlord's cost of living is going up that much. You still got to pay his mortgage, but the cost to fix the roof is 1 billion times more. The currency is worth less, but the contract that you wrote with him is in US dollars. There's nothing he can do about it. He can't trade gold with you, right? So if you have none, not good. You should have a house, is what I'm saying. Because just like everything else, this is likely to continue to go up. But if you're looking to invest in many, many properties, not as good as these two things. And in fact, I'm favoring Bitcoin myself for a lot of different reasons. I'm doing both. I'm doing everything. I'm doing everything on this list. All four of these things. I am acquiring in proportion to my finances, right? Like we're not talking like immense amounts of money, I wish I was rich. I'm not. So I'm doing all these things in proportion to my finances. And so I'm getting my first place to live. And once I have it, that's the last thing I'll do on the property front. I'm acquiring Bitcoin in my actual wallet, real Bitcoin, not on an exchange, real Bitcoin. I'm acquiring gold, silver, other metals, whatever. And I'm acquiring stuff. Bullets, cookware, whatever I possibly need. And that is why there is no crash. That is why. It's a melt up, is what they call that. I thought that term was the fakest term I've ever heard, was a melt up. A melt up is this. And with a melt up, the person who loses is the person who doesn't have assets. Anyway, I don't know if that made any sense at all, because I feel like a madman after that whole thing. But that was an extreme simplification. Like I could go on and on and on and on this topic. But the thing I want to get across to the people watching is that if you're an artist, you're an entrepreneur, you're young, especially if you're young, you're in it's very dangerous. It doesn't mean the danger will materialize to its maximum effect. It just means that save money, like act frugal right now. This is not the time to be buying. Like you may have money in stocks, right? You might go, wow, my stock went up like 3 times yesterday, and you might go, wow, I'm so rich, I might get a watch, I might get I don't know, the next iPad, I might get these things. Don't do it. Be happy you got 3 times on the stock, and yeet it into one of these assets until you have a nice safety net. Once you can live off of that safety net, or once it's a cushion that you're satisfied with, whatever that number is for you, you have to figure that out. Then consider other things. But be very aware that this is not a good situation. Now, can things still crash? Yes, because the melt up can cause the crash. There's multiple famous melt ups that it's the same thing I explained with the corn. The corn gets more and more expensive, and everyone's like, wow, we should invest in corn because it's getting more and more expensive. Really, it's just inflating. That's all that's happening. It's not getting more expensive. It's not making more money. It's not more productive. It's just getting more dollars are needed to acquire the same amount of corn. It hits a critical mass. No one can buy corn. The farmer dies. And guess what happens to the corn stock? It crashes. So these stocks that you're buying on the S&P 500 or whatever, I don't know when that might happen. I have zero clue. Not even a little bit. And I think it's been the most perplexing thing watching the market ignore all the red signs. And now I understand it. It's because they don't have a choice. They've got to go into stocks. It's harder money than their dollars. It's harder money than anything else out there that they're comfortable with. And it's giving them 10 times returns. Whereas Bitcoin, gold, property, and stuff don't give 10 times returns. Until it doesn't. Until the companies are so overvalued and they still go bust. Imagine, here's something you might actually see. You might actually see this. A company like, well, whatever company you want to pick, might double in value this year, from beginning to end of the year. It might double in value, then go bankrupt. That's what the kind of thing that we're talking about. It's a complete bubble rupture. Anyway, Ben, did I make any sense at all this entire time?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on the topic?
No, although, I mean, I think it'll, like, in some ways sort of relate to what we're going to talk about in arguing with Reddit. So, we'll talk more about economics and art and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Sweet. Yes, and if you have any questions about anything I talked about here, which if you don't, I guess you're just absolutely and utterly brilliant, because it took me forever to understand this. Like, such a big brain blast. But if you have any questions about any of this, hit me up on the Discord. Link in the description to the Discord. I wonder if this is a good ad read time. Let's see here. Will this allow me to do it? Oh no, we do not have enough. I should have done this at the peak of the Rumble viewership, because I think there's a minimum on of viewers, which is very small. And we might have hit it for like a moment. Well, I was in the middle of talking, but right now not. Anyway, next we'll be doing an area with Reddit. Stick around for that. I'll actually stay on the screen right here, and Ben will be talking about hot takes and music. And we hope you enjoy that. So thank you for listening to my craziness. All right. Here we go.
Mixed Media Music.
All right, welcome to Mixed Media Music, the portion of the Mixed Media podcast dedicated to all things music with a particular emphasis on classical and on media music. My name is Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer. I'm the main host for Mixed Media Music, and I'll be assisted by my co-host. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
All right, so today on Mixed Media Music, we have Arguing with Reddit. And if you're unfamiliar with that, basically, normally my two co-hosts, well, we only have one today, have select some hot takes or questions or something like that from the internet, usually from Reddit, and I get to respond to them live on the show without seeing them, and I'll have picked one for myself as well. I guess we probably only have one that I haven't seen today, and probably be better to start with that because I know that I'm going to take a long time on mine unless you don't have one pulled up.
Oh yeah, let's start with yours.
You're saying
start with mine. Oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. Sure.
Yeah.
So this one is from r/dance. Since we were talking about dance earlier.
Okay.
Let's pull it in.
Here. I cannot guarantee that I will be able to give the best answer on this, but we'll see.
I don't know, actually. We'll see.
And if you're new to the show, I also sometimes talk about specifically Lindy Hop, but dancing a little more in general, so I also do that.
Yes. So this one's from r/dance. It says, ballet isn't the foundation of all dance. From a former ballerina of 10 years from one of the most prestigious American ballet studios, I see a lot of comments on this sub that ballet is the root of all dance, and simply false. Ballet didn't create dance. You're just looking at dance at an incredibly Eurocentric manner. Mm-hmm. And then so on and so forth. There's some jazz discussion in here as well. So yeah, what's
okay. Yeah, I mean that's I mean maybe some people who have that more Eurocentric viewpoint would argue for that, but I don't think it's a very defensible position. A lot of people will also make, I have encountered this, they make the argument that, well, even if ballet isn't like the foundation upon which all other dances are built, which it's definitely categorically not, but even if it is, you need to start with ballet because it gives you a great movement principles and understanding of how to move your body. Well, one thing you learn if you are in the swing dancing world, which I am, is that the vast majority of people who start doing swing dancing have never done any kind of dancing before. Now, that is not to say that like nobody has a background in dance, and some people even have a background in ballet. One of my favorite dancers, Elise May, is the ballet dancer first. And anyway, and there's a lot of things one can learn from ballet. I in particular have a sort of thing that I like to do with my right leg, as a kind of footwork variation, which is kind of inspired by ballet. I think the French term is rond de jambe. But yeah, so you can use ballet certainly and things from that, but do you need it? No. And is it going to make you a better partner dancer? Probably not. Like what often happens to people I think who come into Lindy Hop. But again, I'm just using this as one example. It's the only dance that I know. But you'll often see people who come in like with some experience in ballet, and they're good at individual movements. But the problem with a partner dance like Lindy Hop is that it's a part dance, and it's also improvisational. So you might have a good sense of like how to move your own body, but you first have to like you're content with the fact that this is a partner dance that is led and followed, right? Which is not an aspect of ballet. Yes, there are some things that happen in partnerships, but it's very choreographed, and it's not like a led and followed thing. Like, okay. And it's so totally improvisational. I mean, you can do choreographed things, but that's not what you're doing when you go out dancing, right? It's an improvised dance, so you have to contend with that too. You're improvising, but if you're a follower, you may not really have a lot of direct control even over what is, you know, what sort of moves are being led. And there's a lot more than just moves, but so you know, it's really not in the backbone, you know, the DNA of something like the historical swing dances such as Lindy Hop, and it's not really going to help you with like the improvisational partner aspects of doing it if you have that background. Like I said, you know, it can help you with like body awareness, like give you ideas of movements you can do, but it is not essential to have that knowledge going into a dance that is largely, it is actually, you know, built what are the roots of swing dancing, like specifically Lindy Hop, right? The roots are really kind of a combination of European partner dances, and then kind of combined with you know, some like Native American elements actually, and a lot of African dancing elements, which are not at all related to ballet. And even the, you know, European partner dances are not really terribly related to ballet either, right? Now you might do some waltzing, right, in your ballet class, but that's different than an actual waltz, right? Again, it might be similar technique, but it's not the same as like you've actually learned how to do a Viennese style waltz. And the Viennese style waltz, you know, has some linkage to early Lindy Hop, right? In the sense that, like, you know, like partner sort of connection, right? And the aspect of lead and follow, even though in like European partner dances, there really isn't the same sort of like, there's maybe a role of lead and follow, but it's different than the way that in an improvisational dance such as Lindy Hop, or leading and following is actually what makes the dance work. So, you know, it's like the way that a lead leads something is right. The way that they create forces in and move the follow's body is what prompts the follow to respond. That's a little bit different than like what the role of the lead and the follow is in like a, you know, European style partner dance. So all that to say, ballet is not the foundation of all dancing. It's nice. Great starting place for a lot of people when they're children, and you can start ballet later in life too, but it is not the foundation upon which all dances in all cultures are built.
Dang, you answered that like you're a pro. You made it sound like you wouldn't be able to answer it, maybe. Sweet. All right, now it's yours, Ben, if you want to.
All right.
Dive in.
So I found this, and it is also dancing related, but we're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about Spotify, and yeah. So I got to read quite a bit of it because I also replied in the comments and got a bunch of fun. The comments are half as much fun as the actual original question. All right. I honestly, this might be like the thing that I found for myself on this show that has gotten like the most visceral reaction from me. All right. So again, we're in the context of talking about Lindy Hop, right? Mm-hmm. The question is high quality YouTube channels from schools. All right. A rather innocuous question, at least in the title. Mm-hmm. The person says, since I started swing dancing, I've been a little frustrated by the lack of free resources available to learn, especially compared to other popular dances like salsa, bachata, ballroom, etc. For example, this channel, they give a link to a YouTube channel, is run by a small salsa school in Manchester, and I consider it to be very good, with 5 to 15-minute HD videos focusing on progressive curriculum of beginner and intermediate staple moves, shown from various angles, as well as some footwork and boy isolation drills. Alternatively, this bachata channel, another link, run by well-known international teachers, shows quick breakdowns of various combos. With swing, I've been relying so far on the channel Lindy Ladder, which is well structured, although the video quality is poor and the library is not especially big. Swing in Style also has low quality videos. The library is huge, but virtually impossible to navigate via playlist. Laura Glaze has a small number of good videos, but they aren't progressively structured, and they maybe have a bit more filler than I like. She goes on and lists some other services as well. I'm not going to read her, or her, I don't know. I have no idea what the gender is, but I'm not going to read this breakdown of all these channels that they comment on. But they go on to say, a couple of my prior schools had YouTube channels with lots of low quality, dated, badly organized playlists that hadn't been updated since about 2016. So I guess this is probably relatively common. I wondered if anyone here has stumbled across a goldmine of well put together, structured, well taught lessons on YouTube. I don't mean to sound too critical. I'm a big fan of the community and respect the work of the creators I mentioned above for all their work. Still, it seems to me that in a world with hundreds of schools, and especially after COVID, where everything moved online, there must be good resources out there that I'm missing. It doesn't have to be a celebrity product, maybe just something made by your local school that you think is good. All right. Now, I initially commented, and I gave some pointers about particular things they can look at online and what my experiences are. But I also pointed out, like, Lindy Ladder has 99 videos that are progressive. Now, maybe they're not the highest video quality, but you really need more than 99 videos? Like, that's a lot, okay? And it's entirely free. Yeah, so maybe it's not like a high definition video, right? But that's a lot of content. You want more content than that? Okay, so I pointed out, that's about as good as you're probably going to get for something that's free. There are lots of things out there that are free, but they're often going to be like a 2-minute summary of like a class that somebody taught, right? They're not going to be the full hour-long class that the person taught. There are lots of videos that are, actually do contain teaching, but like they're one-offs or, small, like they're not like a, over 99 videos, right? In a progressive style. So you're asking a lot of entirely free content because teachers have to like make a living, right? And I also point out, like, if you truly are committed to just having entirely free stuff, there's an infinite number of great dancing videos out there of like actual dances, not instructional content. And to me, that's like, well, that's the original way that people were learning this stuff when they invented the dance, like Frankie Manning, right, Norma Miller, when they're inventing Lindy Hop. I mean, you say it all the time, but it's really very true. I think in these performing arts, imitation is the highest form of flattery. Like what you do is you see something somebody else is doing, you're like, wow, that's cool. And you're probably not going to go up to them and ask them. You could, depending on your relationship with them, or if you're how bold you are, but you're probably not going to go up and ask the person, hey, how did you do that thing? And you probably have a hard time explaining what that thing is anyway, because we don't have a great language of describing these things. No, you're going to watch them do it, and you're going to try and figure out what they're doing and do it in your own body. And we kind of do that, like, like we like to imitate each other, like in a kind of, flattering way, actually. Like, I don't just say that because, the adage imitation is the highest form of flattery, but like, wow, I really like what this person is doing, and like, I kind of want to like look like them, right? Like, that's what we do. And YouTube is great for this. Pull up a video or many videos of your favorite dancers and find something that you enjoy, and something that looks cool, and you can watch that on loop. You can put it on 50% or 25% speed and figure out what they're doing. I mean, honestly, I've learned a lot more from doing that at a certain point. Like, you're not gonna get like the fundamentals of how to dance from this. You need to have a sense of like the basic categories of movements and how your own body moves. But once you have that background, for me, like, I often find that's how I learn the most, is by like watching my favorite dancers and trying to figure out what they're doing. And whether I can achieve it or not, like, I've still learned something in the process. right? So there's that element, right? There's also the element that Lindy Hop is a very different dance than these very structured dances that this person is referring to. There's no right or wrong in Lindy Hop. It's an improvisational dance. Like, what's wrong is if somebody gets hurt. Okay, so don't hurt somebody. But other than that, if you don't get hurt, it's not wrong, right? Now, you might not win a competition. You might not look great or graceful to everyone on the outside, but if it doesn't make it wrong, it's like what happens in the moment, what you feel in the music, what your partnership dynamic feels like, that makes it right. Or like, you know, the joke in jazz, I can't remember who said it, the famous quote, like, there's no such thing as a wrong note. It's the note that follows it that makes the note wrong or right. Right? Everything you do, whether it's a mistake or not, what you intended or not, it's how you recover from it that kind of makes the dance. So, and again, there aren't that many core moves or movements or categories of movements in Lindy Hop, right? There are, if you watch like a lot of the world's greatest dancers, they have a relatively limited set of things that they do. But for each thing that they have chosen to make part of what they do, they have like 10,000 ways of doing it. All right. This is very different than a structured dance that has a defined international syllabus. And you know, you have to learn move X before you learn move Y. And there's a right way to do move X, and a right way to do move Y. So that makes it very difficult. It's also like, it's very impersonal, right? I decide what moves I enjoy and don't enjoy, and I invent things, right? And maybe I'm inspired by someone else to invent something similar to that, or I just play around and invent something it's all very personal. So it's much harder to have like a defined curriculum that is going to be really broadly applicable. So you're running up against that too. Right, you can pay for some of these better programs for Lindy Hop, and yes, you will find better quality videos, and they will often have like, maybe, you know, I don't know, so they have like 200 videos, right? And they'll probably present a progression, maybe some of them do. So good, you've satisfied that element of what you're looking for, but their progression is just what they personally teach. Now, I don't necessarily want to be stuck with that. That's why I prefer the method of breaking things down that I'm personally interested in. Now, I take in-person classes too. And there, you know, but I'm free to like pick up whatever I want. You know, maybe I learned a move in the class, but it's not something I want to add, so I just forget it. Right? I'm not going to put my time into practicing it. I find, though, I waste a lot less money and time when I break things down on my own, because I can choose exactly what I want to break down, right? I'm not forced into doing that. So you might find that, like, you know, if you're going to stick to, like, one person's catalog of 200 dance videos that you have to pay for, maybe somewhere along the line, you start getting tired of like their style. You're like, you know what? This is not my style. So, all right, I've addressed this from like the purely Lindy Hop angle. I could say more too. This person makes a bunch of contentious claims about Lindy Hop. They contest that it's not a street dance, which it is. Lindy Hop is a street dance, and partly what that means is, again, is that it's not a defined thing. Like, there are, right, there's no like international syllabus of this. You must learn this move before this move in this way. They also make some claims, right? So they can, other people also point out, again, we're going to get into the economic side of this in a second. Other people also point out, though, on the economic side, as I do as well, that you're expecting a lot from free content, and like, well, people don't have to do that, right? And this person's responses, the OP's responses, largely are, well, that's why it's such a, the dance is nobody dances it, right? Because all these other channels, they have all this free stuff, and then it inspires students to want to pay to take in-person classes or pay for classes online, right? And Lindy Hop doesn't do that, and that's why nobody dances it, right? Because we're not giving people something that they free that makes them want to learn it. Yeah, it also has some other claims. So, they're also concerned that like without they can't progress quickly enough in the way that Lindy Hop classes are taught. All right, well, we could have a whole discussion about whether progress is linear in Lindy Hop. It's probably not linear in any dance, but it's different in a dance, again, that it's like so personal versus a dance where, I know that after I learn move B, I need to learn move C. It's not that kind of thing. It's your own personal journey. You choose how you move through it, right? And someone else suggests top comment is, it seems like you have identified a niche you can fill. You spend thousands of hours dancing, teaching, filming, producing videos, and then share them for free. And the response from the OP was, if I reach a good enough level to be an authority on dancing, I would like to do so. There's nothing wrong with charging money for a service. There's also no need to make fun of me for hoping that someone somewhere in the internet might have produced good materials just because they love the dance in the community and want to share their knowledge. Volunteering is not scabbing. They also commented on my post, although I didn't say this, but they say, I don't see any wrong with instructors charging money, but I don't necessarily agree that resources shouldn't be free. All right, now we're going to get into the economic side of this here. Art. And does art cost money, right? We have this Spotify CEO telling us that music doesn't cost anything to produce. All right, so it's like the simplest economic terms, we have opportunity cost, and the largest opportunity cost is time. So we're gonna forget about like all the spiritual struggles, so to speak, of being an artist, right, and creating something, which is not nothing. Even if it's not like literally you feel like you're battling yourself, but there's some like part of yourself that you have to contend with when you're creating art, right? Might not always be on the surface, but that is an actual cost. But we'll ignore that, right? That's harder to quantify. But there's the opportunity cost, at very least, of time, right? If I'm writing a piece of music, okay, maybe it literally does. I could make music with all sorts of free tools out there, but I'm still spending time on it that I could use on anything else. So that alone is not nothing, right? I could, instead of practicing flute today, I could have spent those hours, I don't know, having someone pay me to mow their lawn. Okay? That's an opportunity cost, right? In very simple economic terms. Other things that factor into creating art. How many years of my life, well, it's still time, but how many dollars have I spent in addition to the years acquiring knowledge as an artist? A lot, right? I didn't just like emerge from the womb knowing how to write music. Okay? Opportunity costs there are in time and in money, right? There's also the cost of acquiring things like equipment, like, oh, my flute costs a lot of money, right? And it costs money to maintain. It costs me money to have a practice space. It costs me money to acquire materials like sheet music to practice, right? So we have all these costs that go into being an artist. I had a good conversation with Kai this week. We were talking about kind of in brief. We were talking about the payment for musicians in the Catholic Church. as a topic I think I've talked a little bit about. I could go on about it for a long time. He and I went on about it for quite a while. But so I actually got my first paying church job. Not actually a job, but like just a gig, right? I've never been I've been paid for other things, obviously, but I've never been paid to play in a church thing before. But I got an offer to do something really cool. But that's not the point. The point is that it's the first time I've ever been paid, or going to be paid, to play in a Catholic church. And I don't resist it, right? Because part of me is like, well, I can't really put my foot down too much when it's like a church, right? But like if we're being realistic, in no other circumstance of my musical career would I act that way, right? I don't go to all these rehearsals and stuff for free.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, obviously we have the issue of like the church not making a lot of money, right? And having money to therefore pay musicians. That's a real thing. But part of it too, I'm sure, is that if, for instance, the one person who gets paid at my church, the music director, tried to pay me, and I'm sure he would pay me if he wanted to, or if he could, right? Not that somebody doesn't want to. He would pay me if he could. But I'm sure that if he had enough money to actually give me anything, all the other volunteers in the church would complain. Like, well, why am I not being paid to be an usher, right? Well, my response is, what I do isn't free, right? It's different than like the usher who spends, volunteers an hour of his or her time every once in a while to help people find a seat. Okay, I spent I don't know how many thousands of dollars acquiring the skills of being a flute player, and the fact that, like, as I pointed out in my conversation, my flute, to get its annual like service so that it continues to function properly is probably $500. Like, that costs money for me to have a working instrument so that I can contribute to the church. Right? I'm just looking at like there are way more things we could get into, like about like what factors into art being worth something, and that's not even like on the personal level, like what it means to you. Right? The cost of creating something is not zero, right? So if you're going to demand, right, not demand, maybe that's not the right word, but if you're gonna kind of almost take offense at the idea that people should be getting paid for their dance content. I mean, this is not a financially lucrative career, being a dance teacher. Most people do it as like a part-time thing. Like, they're really great dancers and they teach sometimes. They have to rent studios, right? They have to invest time planning what they're going to teach, finding music, right? Actually teaching it, right? It's not nothing. And of course, it makes sense that they should be paid for what they're doing. Not everything, right? It's fine. Like, if they want to put out like a small, like a 2-minute sample, right, which is what most people do. There's tons of videos of that on YouTube. Great. If they want to occasionally put out something longer, okay, that's on them, right? But to kind of expect that there to be a lot of free things, it's art, right? Like, it's not a free thing, and people are giving away their time, whether it's their full-time profession or not. You want the knowledge that they have. Like, if you came to me and asked for a flute lesson, would you expect me to charge you nothing? Right? I'm just gonna impart all
yes.
You expect me to impart all the knowledge I've gained about flute playing at the cost of thousands of hours and many thousands of dollars? I'm just going to give it to you for free? I mean, I guess I could just be really generous, but that's no way to make a living, right? No. Like, what I offer is worth something, at least I believe, and hopefully if you want my knowledge, you also believe it, right? That it's worth something. You could say the same thing about like music stuff, right? There are a ton of videos about playing flute. Aren't there a lot of good free ones? No. Most of the free things are pretty not good, right? There are some things you can pay a little bit of money for a little bit better content, but really, the best way to acquire knowledge, other than you practicing it, right, is to work one-on-one with somebody, an expert. There's only so much you're going to get via a video. So I wouldn't expect that like videos are ever going to be that great. I don't think they're ever really going to replace an in-person kind of education for something like this. Not to say that like you can't learn things from a dance video or from a flute video, but I also think like you got to keep your expectations somewhat reasonable. Yeah, and should it also to the question of, right, well, these channels that I pointed to are doing it for free, and if Lindy Hoppers just did it for free, then more people would be inspired to take Lindy Hop. Well, all right. Let me work through this. One, do we want to create a race to the bottom? Right? And this is the problem, certainly in film composing, right? If everybody is going to charge nothing for their services, then that devalues everyone's services. So the fact that some people are offering a lot of content for no money is not necessarily a good thing. It might look good to you and your wallet, but that doesn't help dance teachers and the art of dance as a whole, right? I'm not saying that like you can't have free content, but we shouldn't be encouraging that race to the bottom, right? Encouraging everybody to put things out for free, right? We don't want this race to the bottom. Also, in these two channels is the OP links. One of them, yes, is entirely free, but they want you to, they direct you to their Patreon. So, okay, you don't have to pay them, but you are more than encouraged to pay them. All right, so yes, you can get all their content, but also, they have fewer videos than Lindy Library. They have, I think, 96 videos, and Lindy Library has 99. So I'm not sure what we're worrying about in terms of like volume of, number of lessons. The other one, again, they have like almost 300 videos. Okay, a lot of videos, and they look nice. I just glanced at one, even though it's not a style that I know. Yes, really well produced, but they want you to be inspired by them to go pay for more content online on their website. And okay, so they're offering you a lot, but only so enough to get you up to a certain point where you need to pay for more. Which, okay, granted, it's certainly, again, still a lot. I don't know, like, relatively, if that's a lot, like, for salsa or whatever it was. But it's not like it's yes, it's supposed to be a gateway for you to pay more. So you're probably not going. My guess is that you probably can't progress that far in their whatever 300 videos, because if you could become a master dancing just from that, then they wouldn't have a lot more content for you to pay for, right? Although it might seem like a lot to a beginner in that dance. So they're not doing it for free either. Now, as to whether having more high quality content that's free will inspire people to pay money, like for in-person classes or whatever, that's a little bit harder of a question. And I don't know if I have a great answer for that, but I suspect that Lindy is different. That Irving, had you ever heard of Lindy Hop before I mentioned it to you on the show?
I don't think so. I've heard of swing.
I mean, okay, swing, but swing is a loaded term, as we've discussed, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yes, there are lots of things out there if you want to learn swing dancing, which mostly means East Coast swing, or like country swing, okay, or West Coast swing, but it'll say West Coast swing if it's West Coast swing. There are lots of well-produced videos on the basics of East Coast swing if you just type in the swing, and also some not good ones, as we talked about when I have an episode on defining swing. But lots of great videos, but not so much for Lindy. And I think part of it is that people don't know that Lindy Hop exists. I certainly had never heard the term before I started doing it. I didn't even hear the term until after I had started doing it. Okay. So I think there's that. Like, you've probably heard of salsa dancing before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Lots of people have heard of salsa dancing, and people are aware it's something that they can attempt to do. So it already has that organic, like, reach, so to speak, of like, oh, maybe I'm interested in salsa. I'll watch a video online. Oh, that seems easy enough. Maybe I'll take a class. I think it's harder for Lindy to do that because people don't know that Lindy Hop is a thing. Most of the people who get into Lindy, if not like everyone who gets into Lindy pretty much, they kind of discover it by accident and then they fall in love with it. Most people do not seek out Lindy Hop unless you like know other swing dances and you've heard of Lindy Hop and then you want to try it. I do know a lot of I do know some West Coast swing dancers who are aware of what Lindy Hop is and then like decided to explore it and started doing Lindy Hop. Okay. But other than that, if you're going to start with Lindy Hop, you probably have discovered it more or less by accident. So there's that's hindering it. I will also I'm not going to deny that I think a lot of other dance styles have people who are much better at social media and marketing than Lindy Hop. That is an area in which Lindy Hop has fallen really short. Not a lot of people who are like leveraging content, right, and like leveraging what social media reach to try and like market the dance or even market themselves. Very few dancers seem to use social media very much, especially like the best dancers. So that is certainly true that like there's an issue of marketing and an issue of visibility and an issue of engagement. And I don't know why that is exactly. And I don't really know what the remedy is other than just get on and do it. But what that leads to is that a lot of this content that you see from, people online, it probably doesn't necessarily lead you to like learn Lindy from them, like, in person. But it's a lot of people who are doing these stuff for free. They're doing it as a labor of love. Like, they're good teachers and they're passionate about what they do. And like, that's great. But there's a reason that they don't have 300 videos, right? It's hard enough. Most of them don't really know what they're doing. They're just gonna stick a camera and like a phone camera on a tripod and say, "Hey, I'm gonna teach you how to do a tuck turn." There's a lot of that online. So, and tuck turn being like one of the most basic things that you can do in Lindy Hop. So okay, yes. So I guess as to why people aren't like marketing themselves better, I don't know why, but I'm not sure that the problem is just that, the solution is just that if people had more free videos, more people would want to learn Lindy Hop. I think, like, who's going to watch those free videos, right? I think that the thing to address first is probably more of the social media marketing sort of thing. And I don't think the issue is that people don't have enough free content for Lindy Hop. I think I don't think that making more free content is going to draw more people to a dance. And I don't think it should be free. Not that everything needs to be cost, it needs to cost something. But I don't think you should like be able to just like expect a lot of explicit instruction, like enough explicit instruction to reach whatever magical level you want to reach. I don't think that should all be free. I don't think it's fair to the art form and to the artist. So yes, it's a long answer to this. But
it's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know, something about kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So yeah.
We have a bunch of chats, but I'll just go through some of the highlights here. So Alex Egbert said, "I have thoughts about art and economics, so I dig the present vibe." And just wanted to say, like, I have an episode about I think I can't remember what it's called. It's like I think it's called something like "How Freeware Destroyed Art" or something like that. That one's really good, Alex, if you want to check that one out on that vibe, because no one, like, the idea that we're in this area anywhere where Ben has to rant about like things costing money is so absurd. Like, it's like no one owes you like art, but like we're in this space because of a lot of other factors going on, and people kind of just expect everything to be free. Anything like creative,
Right.
especially.
Spotify is free, right? So
Exactly.
so why can't I just learn? If every bit of music ever created is at my fingertips for free, why can't I just get every bit of dance knowledge out there for free too?
Right. Exactly. Everyone's entitled to art nowadays. It's pretty crazy. Let's see. Going back a little bit, Kai says, due to the pandemic, quote unquote, due to the pandemic, there would be online partner dance classes. LOL. I think he's just saying the absurdity of like complaining and saying, "Oh, the pandemic." Yeah, it's just...
Yeah. Oh, wait. So one person who I actually know the person in real life, comments on this thread too about how like she watched videos and like someone like created a choreography and she taught herself this choreography during the pandemic and was like practicing with like a stretch band on a doorknob, right, to like mimic having like that tension from partner's arm. Like, yeah, people did do that stuff to like trying to not lose everything that they knew. But yes, for actual partner dancing, kind of hard to do in lockdown. Right? Unless you have like a spouse, right, in your house who's going to dance with you.
Yeah. Let's see. Kai also says, "Okay, so real talk. It's a bit surprising someone is trying to learn seemingly all online."
Oh yeah, and now I wrote that in my comment too. I started off with, "Are you trying to learn entirely online?" And the person says, "No, I've spent lots of money on classes too, but like the classes are in the way that Lindy classes are structured is boring too." I'm like, and then I don't learn fast enough, so I want to learn online. Like, well, okay. It sounds like there are a lot of issues this person has with learning Lindy Hop. They complain that most classes are like once a week. I'm like,
that's not bad. What's wrong with that?
That's pretty. Like, what do you want? Like, most places that even like non-Lindy classes don't normally meet more than once a week in my experience, right? Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the person is looking for, and they don't progress fast enough. I mean, progression is totally not linear in this stance. It's you can totally like feel like you have reached a plateau that will take you like years to surpass, right? Like, and it's not just like progress isn't just acquiring new moves. It is not like what makes one progress. Like, there's what I feel like when I've noticed progress, and I've only been doing it for just under 2 years now, but progress to me is often not like, oh, I've acquired a new move, like I've leveled up. No, it's often like, oh, I have a better like feeling for like how to get a follow to kind of like move rotationally in like this specific like just in general, like rotation sorts of things, like not even turns, just like if I'm doing a rotational sort of like motion as a prep, like it's just like a feeling of stretch and tension, and Like, did I acquire that by like watching a video or taking a class? No, like I mean, I do. I certainly did. I have a playlist of like 40 videos on just like this like rotational sort of rock step, right? And I certainly watch these and like, well, what, you know, is something I can learn physically by like watching. But most of what you learn, how way I learned that was like by going out and doing it with somebody else and like failing a lot, and then eventually like, well, what sort of works? And at one point it just kind of like, oh, it's working more often than it's not working, and when it doesn't work, it feels less like it is something that is 100% my responsibility, and it feels more like a shared responsibility for it not happening. Like, it's very different than like, well, I've just acquired a new move, so I have progressed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Alex says, I don't think there's a way to get around the quality difference between paid and volunteer labor services. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think also if people demanded more, even in church settings, I think there's like a psychological like barrier into being like, nah, I should just be paid. Like, you know, just pay me. You know, and I'm saying that because I feel the same way too a lot of times. But you know, like that's like you kind of need to send the signal of this costs me something and justice needs to be done in my direction. You know, not everything, you know, we all have to live, we all have to eat. You know, like not everything can be an act of charity. Some things are just justice.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not to sound like entitled, but like there's a difference between, you know, I don't like my father is like a Eucharistic minister, so he's like took like an hour-long training, right? And he can go like volunteer in a church and be a Eucharistic minister. The amount of education that has gone into me learning how to like produce a pleasant sound when I play the flute is a lot more than like an hour-long training, right? Like, for me to offer anything to you, I had to have poured in thousands of hours and dollars into acquiring that pleasant sound that hopefully enhances your worship.
Yeah.
That's not to like discredit the volunteering work of the ushers and Eucharistic ministers and whatnot. It's not to discredit, like, say what you're doing is unimportant and unhelpful, but it's a qualitatively and quantitatively different sort of thing than like what I do. Anyway, won't change anybody's mind. I won't make any extra money because I said that, but
yeah. Kai also says regarding West Coasters trying Lindy, yeah, but watching Westies, it's clear that they'll try anything, even contemporary music.
So, not to get too far off of our original question, but I will note that the relationship between West Coast swing and Lindy Hop is fascinating. West Coast swing dancers are much better at connection and following, like, than we are in Lindy Hop. And like the other week, I danced with this young lady who had never done any Lindy Hop before, but she does a lot of West Coast swing. And I led this move that I struggle with a lot as a lead, but I really love it. And most of the time I fail, but like I could tell after dancing with her for like 10 seconds that like it was something I could reasonably attempt just to see what would happen. And she followed it like way better than anybody I've ever encountered has. And I was like, well, like, you've never done Lindy and you just like followed that. And she's like, what did I do? I don't even know what I'm like, see, like, you're just so good at like following, like you don't even have to think about it. Like that's incredible. But the relationship, it's weird because a lot of Lindy Hoppers, and this is not a good thing, that's not every Lindy Hopper, but a lot of Lindy Hoppers are very snobbish and look down on West Coast swing as this kind of inferior thing. There's a lot of West Coast swing dancers like, oh, Lindy Hop seems kind of cool. I like to try that. So, but it is true. West Coast swing dancers will dance to anything, and Lindy Hoppers do not generally like to dance to just anything. So yeah. Although this young lady, she also gave me the comment that I lead like a West Coast lead, and I'm not sure whether that's a compliment or not. But
Cool.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, everything else in the chat is a response to prior stuff, so I think that's about it.
All right.
Want to take us out?
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to Arguing with Reddit, and if you've been with us the whole time, thanks for listening to our show tonight. If you liked anything that you heard or saw, give us a like or leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you didn't like it, or if you did like it, let us know. If you want to continue any of the discussions we've had or talk about art in general during the week, make sure to join our Discord server. Also, you can support us on our locals page. We'll link to both the Discord server and our locals page down there, mixedmediapodcast.com. A special shout out to our subscribers, Host, 99 Crime, Alex Egbert, and K. Kairos.
Sweet. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching and listening.
Look, tell a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man. I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback. I just want relax. Brand new with two-tone. I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits. I live in. We back, man. You never gonna like us. Get them on sight now. Let them on light. That way they know I'm all righteous. Look at my life. I'm living all right. I'm nice. You know I'm all right. Looking like Christ. No need for the hype or fight or telephone vipers. No need for the telephone vipers.